Okay, the next thing we need to do is put the camshaft in, but before we put the camshaft in, I want to get rid of some of the little bits and pieces. We're going to put the front and back plates on the engine and try to get as much of this into that motor. First thing I'm going to do is get the spectacles out. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to put this sealing block on the front of the engine like this. This goes right in there, right? What we have to do first, take these little pieces of gasket that go, one goes there, and one goes here. Then we take the sealing block, and that goes on top of the gaskets. We get our bolts, they're a flathead screwdriver. And one goes in there. And the other one goes in here. And it looks so easy on TV, doesn't it? Let's get the gasket lined up. There we go. And then tighten them down. How tight do you make these? I'm going to make them as tight as I can. There we go. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is put the rear seal and the plate. Okay, now first thing we're going to do is get the seal in the plate. And to do that, I'm going to get my little bit of oil here, just a very little bit, and put it around the outside of the seal. There we go. Then put the seal in the plate, push it down, and you see that's not quite. So what we're going to do is get out our little hammer. I'm going to use the old seal to tap it in. It's getting there, little by little. Almost there. You can pause it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now come back over here. Okay, you're recording?
Yeah.
Okay, and there we go. You see that's a nice uniform distance all the way around. This is going to go on here, like that. Okay, before we do that, we have our gasket right here, which is going to go like that. And I'm going to get my Permatex number 2 and apply it to the part. And spread it evenly. Okay. Put our gasket on. Try to get the holes lined up as best you can. Then get my oil, a little bit of oil on my finger, maybe. There we go. Oil up the seal on the inside, and I am just going to put a little bit on here, just so it's nice and slippery, doesn't bind. Okay? And we're going to take our plate with our nice seal in it, because we really don't want this to leak. And persuade it on to the engine, checking to make sure the gasket is all in the right spot, right there. Take our bolts. Two. I think that gasket might be off a little bit there. Come back there right now. Okay, then we got our 1/2-inch socket, and we will snug them up evenly. Okay, we'll go around again, making them even. Now you notice I only put the Permatex on the plate. I did not put it on the engine. Theoretically, hopefully not in my lifetime, but theoretically, someone may have to replace this seal. Hopefully it's not going to be me. When you do that, you'll take this plate off. You know, the engine will be in the car. You take the plate off, and that gasket will come off with the plate and not be stuck to the engine. So you're not going to be trying to scrape the old gasket off the engine from under the car or in some other awkward position. You can just scrape it off the plate on the workbench and replace it with a new gasket. And again, how tight are we making these? Well, I'm not putting on a cylinder head here, so they don't have to be super tight. As long as they're all about the same and reasonably snug. Okay, and there you have it. That's on there. Rear thing, rear seal. There's the old one. Oh no, I put the old one back in. This is the new one. No, I'm only kidding. Okay. Okay, now we're going to put the plate on the back of the engine. Okay, there is no gasket here because there's no oil seal. Hopefully the oil will stay on that side of the seal. First thing I'm going to do get the transmission bolts that hold the transmission on. You put one in this hole, and I'm going to put one in this hole. Okay. The middle part, as I recall when I took it off, was a bolt. But these go here and help you line up the transmission when you put the transmission on. I have a couple of extra nuts here that I'm going to use to insert the studs. And what I'm going to do is lock these two nuts together. Maybe I can do this like that. Again, they don't have to be real tight. And then I will just put that stud in tight enough. Alrighty, then we'll unlock the bolts, unlock the nuts. You want to grab both of them, like that. And repeat it over here. There's one. And there's two. Snug them up. Again, it does not have to be super tight. Most of the time, these come off when you go to take the transmission off. Okay. Two, those are off. Now, we'll take our plate, and there's two dowel little metal pins that help center the plate. And you can tap those down a little bit if you want with my little hammer. One on the floor, 6, I have to go find that, 7. It's amazing how my garage floor eats parts. I will drop stuff on the garage floor and it will take me forever, that's right, forever to find it. So I try to keep the floor pretty neat and clean so it's easier to find the parts that I drop, which I do quite a bit. Okay, again, we'll snug these up. And as we do, we're going to draw this plate down on the pins. I always try to tighten everything uniformly, even though I'm not wearing my uniform today. Okay, final tightening. And we have the back plate installed. We're going to install a couple of smaller parts right here. We're going to install the oil pressure relief valve, a plug, the electrical sending unit for oil pressure, and the brass fitting for the oil pressure gauge. To do that, I'm going to use a 5/16 Allen wrench, a 1/2 inch wrench, 7/16 wrench, and a 7/8 wrench. First, let's start with the spectacles. Okay, the first thing we're going to put in is the oil pressure relief valve. This is the one that came out, okay, the spring and the valve. And these are the brand new ones that are going to go in. So let's put that relief valve in there. We'll put the spring on it. We'll take the nut that holds everything together and put that on there. There's also a copper washer, compression washer, that goes on here. Now we'll tighten it up. Nice and snug, perfect. Next, let's put this plug in. Okay, this plug right here. Now, the plug, the oil pressure sending unit, and the oil pressure fitting are pipe fittings. So, before we put that in, I'm going to put some pipe thread sealant on this, just a little bit, to seal those threads up. Okay? And we'll wipe off any extra toward the end of it and put that right in. Maybe. There we go. Snug it up and make it tight. Maybe. There we go. Tight. Okay. I'm going to wipe off any excess. There we go. Okay, next, let's put in the oil pressure sending unit. This is the one that came out. But since we're building a new motor, we're going to put in a new one, brand spanking. And we'll take our thread sealant, put a little bit on there. We only need it in the threads, we don't need all that much of it. Like that. There you go. And we'll put that, get our 1/2 inch wrench out, snug it up. There, perfect. Finally, the little brass fitting for the oil pressure gauge. We'll put a little pipe sealant, thread sealant on there. Again, just wipe it around, get it in the threads. That's all you need. And we'll put that, I hope it goes there. I figure when I start this engine up, hopefully, there's going to not be any oil just spewing out randomly, because otherwise I'm going to be very upset and look even sillier than I already do. Okay, we'll snug that up. There we go. Brass fitting, sending unit, plug, oil pressure relief valve. Done. Now we can move on. Here's another interesting little something I do. I'm done working on it for the day. I'm going to take the oil pan and put it on the engine. Okay? And we're going to put the bolts. Oh, here they are. And put a couple of bolts in there just to hold it in place for two reasons. One reason is to keep dust and dirt out. And the other reason is to keep the oil that's dripping off our previous work from landing on my floor. So it keeps the oil in, keeps the dirt out. You don't need to put a whole bunch of bolts in because it's not permanent by any means. Okay, there you go.